Good evening. My name is Joshua Edgell, and I'm going to be talking to you about media violence today. My research was done on the aspect that media violence has an effect on us as people, and specifically, I looked into young kids. My goal was to see if the perception or the amount of media violence could change the perception of the way they look on the world. So I found in my lit review, I found an article by Edgell. He talked about how behaviors and memory, as we remember and watch videos, it can have an effect on us. It's because media violence is stimulant, so it stimulates our mind. So what he found was, no matter if you watch small amounts of media violence or large amounts of media violence, you're still going to be affected by the violence and media that you consume. Also, my review by a guy named Hummer talked about while such research is limited, evidence suggests that professional mechanisms for controlling emotion and behavior already by exposure to violent media, therefore long-term increase in aggression and decrease in ability to control due to excessive media violence. So what he was saying there in his article was that when you consume a lot of media violence, even in small amounts, you can develop these traits of aggression, and those can occur over time. So in both Edgell and Hummer, they both realized that there were these traits, like aggression, that can be enforced when you see media violence or portray or watch it on TV shows. So my hypothesis was when media violence is consumed in higher concentration, it has an effect on youth and kids. So I would say that my hypothesis was true by the fact in my lit review, and also all my articles in my paper showed that consumption of media has an effect no matter the amount of media violence that you consume on a daily task. So my theory that I used for my paper was the cultivation theory. Cultivation states that when you consume high traces of media violence, you tend to have a negative outlook on society. So someone who consumes a lot of media violence may look at the outside world as being negative, as there's nothing good in the world. And so that was the theory that I used for my paper. So the study that I used, and it was a reoccurring theme throughout my papers, was a longitudinal study. For me, if I was to do this study on media violence, I would use the longitudinal study because it was most effective and they used it the most in all the articles that I found. So the goal would be to observe kids from a young age and see if media violence has any effect on them as kids, because that is the goal and that's what they did. So we would observe someone from, say, 6 all the way up to 13 and just see if they develop these traits of aggression. Does media violence have any effect on you? The longitudinal study is perfect for the study because it allows you to observe a participant and see how they evolve over time. So my prediction would be that media violence does have an effect on you as a consumer. Research shows that media violence has an effect over time, and it can potentially have a negative effect in that if you consume too much media violence, the cultivation theory will come into play in that you will have consumed too much media violence, and therefore your outlook on society will be a negative. So for future studies, some limitations would be usually when I saw when they used longitudinal study, they were only observing one participant, so that might be a limitation. The goal would be to observe multiple people over an extended period of time, because you want to be able to collect the most data when you're doing this research. So for future studies, I could look at what time a consumer consumes media. So like if someone's consuming media at prime time at night, the traces of media violence might be higher because usually during times of high media violence or prime time, you consume higher traces of media violence. More studies could be directed towards ages of 6 to 16. The goal would be to watch them over time. A lot of research has been done on older people because that's been the recurring events in the news. So my goal would be to look at kids younger and see if those traits have an effect on them as they grow. That's it.